Now we come to the dreaded middle chapter, the most difficult movie in a trilogy to make. Peter Jackson and company had to construct a complete story with a 3-act structure without a definitive beginning or ending. I am of course referring to The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. Now that introductions are out of the way, this second entry hits the ground running. The story picks up with titular Hobbit Bilbo Baggins, Gandalf the Wizard, and the 13 dwarves on the run from the orcs, Azog the Defiler and his pack of hunters. After receiving reluctant hospitality from Beorn, a skin changer who can take the form of a bear, the company resumes their quest to reach the dwarvish kingdom of Erebor and access the secret entrance before the last light of autumn. To reach their destination on time, the group must go through the sinister Mirkwood Forest. Unfortunately, Gandalf is called away to investigate the mysterious necromancer, who is continuing to gather dark forces to his side. Eventually, the company comes in contact with the distrustful Wood Elves and the struggling fishing village of Laketown. Even if Bilbo and the dwarves get to the Lonely Mountain, they must face a new danger, the sadistic dragon Smaug. Immediately noticeable, even from the basic plot, is how this film isn't hampered by the revisiting of familiar territory. In the first Hobbit movie, the company visited locations like the Shire, the Trollshaws, Rivendell, and the Misty Mountains, all of which we've seen before in The Lord of the Rings. This one has a variety of new and interesting locales such as Mirkwood, Laketown, and a larger portion of Erebor. All of these are brought to life beautifully through a combination of Howard Shore's typically great music, the intricately detailed sets, and the impressive CGI. Even places that would seem familiar have their own distinctive style. Although they look culturally similar, you're not going to confuse this Wood Elf kingdom with Lothlorien from the original trilogy. The high production values also extend to Laketown, which appealingly resembles a Dickensian version of Venice. The downside to Laketown is that it's one of the few places where the film tends to drag somewhat. For the most part, this sequel improves on its predecessor's style of being a high-flying adventure. The faster pace and more creative action sequences, the barrel chase being a particular highlight, give the majority of the film a fun, swashbuckling atmosphere. In contrast, the scenes of sneaking around and swaying public opinion in Laketown feel slow by this movie's standard. That's not to say that the film is only enjoyable as a popcorn flick. The characters and their motivations are stronger this time around, with the actors fitting more comfortably into their respective roles. Martin Freeman plays a more adept version of Bilbo here, having naturally progressed to a more capable burglar while maintaining the familiar mannerisms and Hobbit-like characteristics. Speaking of familiarity, I don't need to tell you that Ian McKellen remains as gruffly natural as ever as Gandalf, having more of his own initiative rather than simply acting as a guide. Similarly, Richard Armitage really comes into his own as Thorin, still displaying the qualities of a valiant leader while mixing it up with hints of corruption. The other dwarves, with their backstory out of the way, are more memorable and individualized here through their interactions. The new characters also manage to leave an impression. Mikael Persbrandt is physically imposing and menacingly stoic as Beorn. Lee Pace is charismatically regal and coldly calculating as the Elven King Thranduil. Evangeline Lilly perfectly blends likable spontaneity with dangerous grace and wisdom as Tauriel. Orlando Bloom succeeds at showing a younger and more reckless version of Legolas. Luke Evans is appealingly noble, identifiable, and capable as Bard. Stephen Fry as the Master of Laketown and Ryan Gage as his assistant Alfred are comically conniving without becoming annoying to the point of breaking the mood. And special mention goes to Benedict Cumberbatch's performance capture work as Smaug, unsettlingly serpentine and devilishly intelligent. On top of being one of the most detailed and well-realized motion capture characters next to Gollum and Caesar, this dragon is capable of animalistic ferocity and frightening powers of perception and manipulation. Although not all of these characters are necessary, the storytelling is mostly improved. The necromancer subplot feels more relevant here than last time, affecting the dwarves' quest and effectively setting the stage for the final film. However, more intriguing is Thorin's arc. Rather than making the journey solely about either reclaiming a homeland or seeking a treasure, the writers inject an air of ambiguity around Thorin's ultimate goal. While this was hinted at in the first movie, this film raises the question of whether Thorin really wants to ensure the greater good of his people, or if he is succumbing to the same greed and desire for power that plagued his grandfather. This goes with the movie's theme of selfish ambition overcoming better judgment and potentially causing ruin. In the end, The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, improves on what is already an accomplished prequel, knowing when to have fun and when to be serious. The characters are more advanced and easier to connect with. The acting remains just as gripping. The action scenes are creative and exhilarating. The effects, particularly the performance capture characters, are rich with detail and pleasing to the eye. The story is stronger and more thematic. The sets and costumes are exceptional, and the movie fluidly puts the pieces in place for the grand finale while maintaining focus on its characters.